The council chamber was silent. 12 alien leaders sat around a wide circular table made of dark crystal. Each of them carried the weight of entire civilizations on their shoulders. Their fleets, their soldiers, their colonies, all were burning across the stars. A massive hologram floated above the table. It showed the most recent battle. Their proud armada, the shield of the council, had been torn apart in less than an hour. Shattered hulls drifted lifelessly in space, glowing fires marking the end of thousands of lives. The Zorath representative, a tall insectoid with emerald green eyes, clicked his mandibles. Our fleets are finished. The enemy has broken through 3 of our defense lines. If they reach the inner worlds, there will be no stopping them. The council members shifted uncomfortably. These were not weak nations. For thousands of years, their combined power had ruled this spiral arm of the galaxy. But now their unity was collapsing. The enemy was unlike anything they had faced before. Endless ships, ruthless tactics, and no interest in peace. Every battle ended the same way. Another system lost, another council world destroyed. The Veil, a pale-skinned species with long robes that shimmered like liquid silver, spoke next. Her voice shook. We asked for negotiations. They slaughtered our envoys. We offered territory. They laughed. Tell me, what is left for us? Her words hung heavy in the air. No one answered. Then, slowly, the elder of the council, a reptilian warrior named Corthan, leaned forward. His scales were dark, his eyes sharp. There is one option left. One we have ignored for far too long. The chamber stirred. Everyone knew what he meant, but none dared speak it aloud. Finally, the insectoid Zorath hissed. Humans! The word itself carried weight. The council knew of humanity. A young species, compared to their ancient empires, yet rising fast. Their fleets were small but powerful. Their soldiers were disciplined and fearless. Stories whispered of battles where humans fought long after defeat was certain, turning losses into victories by sheer will. But humanity was also isolated. They had never joined the council. They had never asked for help nor offered it. They kept to themselves on the blue planet called Earth and the growing colonies around it. The Veil narrowed her glowing eyes. Humans will not fight for us. Why should they? We ignored them when they asked for trade rights. We denied them a seat on this very council. Corthan's voice rumbled deep in his chest. Because they are the only ones who can. Our fleets are ashes. Our soldiers are broken. The humans may be young, but they are strong. They are untested in a war of this scale. That may be the only chance we have left. Another hologram appeared, showing the enemy's advance. System after system fell under red markers. Soon the line reached dangerously close to the inner council worlds. The insectoid Zorath struck the table with a claw. If the humans refuse, then all of us will fall. The enemy will sweep across the stars until nothing remains. The chamber filled with low voices, each alien debating, each trying to mask the fear in their tone. Pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. Finally, the eldest of the Veil stood. Her silver robe shimmered like starlight. Send the message. Beg them if you must. Offer them what they once sought. A place at the council. A voice among the stars. Anything, just bring them here. Silence followed. Every eye turned to the center of the chamber, where the great transmitter waited. For centuries, it had carried orders to fleets, decrees to nations, and threats to enemies. Now it would carry a plea for survival. The Zorath leaned over and activated the console. The holographic light shimmered. A message began to form, short, direct, and desperate. To the leaders of humanity. The Council of Worlds requests your aid. Our fleets are shattered. Our colonies fall one by one. If you do not answer, we all face extinction. We will give you what was once denied, a seat among us, a voice in the Council. But first, we ask for your strength. The message was sealed and transmitted into the dark void of space, across hundreds of light years, toward the blue planet of Earth. The chamber fell silent again. Each council member knew what was at stake. If the humans answered, there was hope. If they remained silent, the galaxy would burn. The hologram above flickered once more. Another system had just been lost. 1 million more lives gone in seconds. The alien leaders lowered their heads. Would Earth respond? Or had they just signed their own death sentence by admitting weakness? The answer would decide the fate of the galaxy. The transmission hurtled toward Earth. Somewhere on the blue planet, humanity would soon hear the Council's desperate call. High above Earth, the giant human dreadnought Indomitable floated in orbit. Its black hull reflected the sunlight, casting a shadow over the blue oceans and white clouds below. To the people on the surface, it was a symbol of safety and power. To the galaxy, it was a warning. Inside the command deck, the atmosphere was tense. Holograms of the Alien Council's desperate transmission hovered in the air. Admirals, generals, and political leaders stood in silence as the message played once more. To the leaders of humanity, the Council of Worlds requests your aid. Our fleets are shattered. Our colonies fall one by one. If you do not answer, we all face extinction. We will give you what was once denied, a seat among us, a voice in the Council. But first, we ask for your strength. When the message ended, the room was quiet. Then Admiral Hayes, a tall man with steel-gray hair, broke the silence. They ignored us for decades. They mocked our technology. They treated us as primitives. Now when they face death, suddenly humanity matters. Murmurs of agreement filled the deck. The old wounds were not forgotten. General Alvarez, broad-shouldered and scarred from past campaigns, stepped forward. We owe them nothing. Not one ship, not one soldier. Let their empire burn. Earth should look after Earth, but another voice rose. It was Ambassador Lee, calm and steady, her eyes fixed on the hologram. If they fall, the enemy does not stop. You all saw the reports. These invaders consume everything. If the Council worlds are destroyed, the tide will turn toward us. Earth will not be spared. The words struck hard. Everyone knew she was right. Humanity's fleet was strong, but even Earth could not face the full force of the enemy alone. On the lower decks of the Indomitable, human soldiers stood in long rows. Their armor gleamed under the bright lights. Their helmets rested at their sides, revealing faces of determination and quiet fear. They had seen the recordings of the Council's defeat. They knew what kind of war they might be walking into. Private Daniels, young and fresh out of training, whispered to his squadmate, "Do you think we'll really fight for them?" "For aliens?" Sergeant Cole, a veteran with eyes as sharp as steel, answered firmly. "We don't fight for them. We fight for Earth. Always remember that." Back on the command deck, the debate raged on. Some called for isolation, others for swift action. The Council's offer was tempting, a permanent seat at the table of galactic power. But was it worth the risk of extinction? At last, Admiral Hayes raised his hand. Silence returned. His voice was firm, measured, carrying the weight of command. Humanity does not hide. When danger threatens, we meet it head-on. If the Council falls, we are next. I say we answer. There was resistance, but slowly, heads began to nod. One by one, the leaders agreed. Humanity would not remain silent. Orders spread across the fleet. Engines roared to life. Carriers loaded squadrons of fighters. Cruisers armed their rail cannons. Soldiers boarded transports. In the dark void, entire battle groups shifted into formation. The alien envoys watched in awe from the observation platform. To them, the sight was terrifying and magnificent. Humanity had fewer ships than the Council once commanded, but each vessel radiated power. The dreadnoughts, massive and bristling with weapons, were unlike anything the aliens had seen before. The Veil envoy, pale and trembling, whispered to her Zorath counterpart. "They are smaller in number, but there is something in them, something dangerous." The insectoid only clicked his mandibles. He could not deny it. Back in the command deck, Admiral Hayes looked out across the stars. "Signal the Council. Tell them the fleets of Earth are coming. We will not fight their war for them. We will fight our war against the enemy, and we will show them what humanity can do." The message was sent. Across the galaxy, the Alien Council received the reply. Relief washed over the chamber, though fear still lingered. They had called for humanity, and humanity had answered, but the war was far from won. On the Indomitable, klaxons sounded. The jump drives powered up, filling the decks with a deep vibrating hum. Soldiers gripped their rifles tighter. Pilots sealed their helmets. Engineers whispered last-minute prayers. In one flash of light, the first human fleet tore through space, vanishing into the black. The alien envoys gasped. It was the first time they had seen Earth's war machine in motion. It was fast, efficient, and merciless. Far ahead, across hundreds of light years, the enemy was waiting. Humanity was on its way. As the fleet vanished into the stars, a chilling report came in from the front lines. An entire council system had just fallen. Humanity would arrive too late to save it. The true test was only beginning. The human fleet burst out of warp space, engines blazing, weapons armed. Dozens of ships stretched across the black void, dreadnoughts at the center, cruisers and destroyers forming their shields, and swarms of fighters ready for launch. The glow of Earth's technology lit up the darkness like a wall of steel and fire. Ahead of them lay the battlefield. Fragments of shattered ships drifted endlessly, spinning wreckage of the alien council's last defense. Broken hulls glowed with dying flames. The stars themselves seemed dim against the graveyard of lost fleets. On the bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable, Admiral Hayes studied the display. His jaw tightened. So many dead, and not a single enemy ship left behind. They wiped everything clean. A young officer swallowed hard. "Sir, long-range sensors detecting multiple energy signatures. They're coming back." The tension in the room thickened. Hayes nodded. "Battle stations. All ships prepare to engage." From the shadows of the void, the enemy fleet emerged. At first, only a few faint lights, then hundreds, then thousands. Ships unlike any in the galaxy. Long angular, built for war and nothing else. Their black hulls absorbed the starlight. Their weapons pulsed with a crimson glow. The sight silenced even the most hardened soldiers. "They're enormous," whispered one of the lieutenants. The enemy moved with terrifying precision. No wasted motion, no hesitation. They had destroyed fleets larger than humanity's. Now they turned their guns on Earth's warriors. Inside the hangars, pilots strapped into their fighters. Engines roared as launch bays opened. Sergeant Cole stood among his squad, his voice calm but firm. "Remember your training. Stick to formation. Trust your wingman. You're not fighting for the Council. You're fighting for Earth. Make it count." The first crimson blasts streaked through the darkness. Shields lit up in blue arcs as human ships absorbed the fire. The shockwaves rattled through decks. Soldiers braced themselves as alarms blared. "Return fire!" Admiral Hayes shouted. Rail cannons thundered. Plasma lances tore through the void. Missiles streaked forward in glowing trails. The black sky erupted into a storm of fire and steel. The enemy charged straight into the barrage. Ships were hit, shields flared, but they kept coming. Their formation never broke. Their weapons never slowed. The dreadnought Valiant took the first direct hit. The blast ripped through its side, tearing open decks, venting fire and bodies into space. Still it fought on, guns blazing until its reactor flared out and the ship broke apart. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew watched in silence. Hayes forced his voice steady. "Hold the line. They want us afraid. Don't give them the satisfaction." The first wave of human fighters screamed into the enemy formation. Tiny compared to the massive ships, they darted between enemy fire, unleashing missiles and rapid-fire cannons. Explosions lit up the darkness as enemy cruisers fell, but every victory cost lives. Private Daniels gripped his rifle in the troop bay of a transport, waiting for orders. The walls shook with the impacts outside. He whispered to himself, "This is madness. No one survives a fight like this." Sergeant Cole overheard him and placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "We're human. That means we endure. Don't forget that. Back in space, the battle turned brutal. Enemy destroyers swarmed around the human fleet, hammering shields with relentless fire. One by one, smaller human ships began to falter. Yet the dreadnoughts refused to fall. Admiral Hayes watched as the Resolute, battered and burning, rammed straight into an enemy cruiser. Both ships vanished in a blinding explosion. Hayes's chest tightened, but he gave the only order possible. Maintain pressure. Break their line. Minutes felt like hours. Every second brought another explosion, another casualty. But something remarkable began to happen. The enemy advance slowed. For the first time in this war, the invincible fleet met resistance. Human ships, outnumbered and outgunned, refused to retreat. Each blast was answered. Each fallen vessel was avenged. The alien envoys, watching from the observation platform of the Indomitable, stared in shock. The Veil whispered in disbelief. "How are they holding? No fleet has lasted this long." The Zorath clicked his mandibles slowly. "Because they are not fighting for survival. They are fighting to win." Then came the moment. The largest enemy battleship moved forward, its crimson core glowing with deadly energy. Its weapons locked on the Indomitable. The ship shook as shields strained under the first barrage. Sparks rained across the bridge. "Admiral," shouted the tactical officer, "we can't take much more of this." "Shields are collapsing." Hayes stood tall, his voice like steel. "Then we hit them harder. All ships, concentrate fire on that battleship. Target everything we've got." The command echoed through the fleet. Every rail cannon, every plasma lance, every missile was locked on the enemy flagship. The void lit up brighter than a star as Earth's fury was unleashed in full. The alien envoys shielded their eyes. Even hardened soldiers froze at the sight. The enemy battleship staggered under the storm, its shields tearing apart. For a moment, it looked like nothing could withstand such fire. And then the order came. "Fire everything," Admiral Hayes growled. The Indomitable unleashed its main weapon, a colossal railgun round the size of a shuttle. It tore through the darkness like a spear of light. The enemy battleship shuddered as the round punched clean through its hull. A heartbeat of silence followed. Then the ship erupted in a cataclysm of fire and debris. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. For the first time, the enemy had been broken, but the celebration died as sensors lit up with fresh contacts. Hundreds more enemy ships poured out of warp, surrounding the battlefield. The crew stared in horror. The enemy was not finished. The true battle had only just begun. Surrounded on all sides, the human fleet faced annihilation. Admiral Hayes clenched his fists. The next order he gave would decide if humanity lived or died. The battlefield was chaos. Human ships burned across the void, their shields straining against the endless waves of enemy fire. For every enemy vessel destroyed, more appeared, spilling from warp space like an unstoppable tide. The galaxy had seen countless fleets fall to this storm. Yet this time, something was different. On the bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable, alarms screamed. Sparks burst from shattered consoles. The ship rocked under another direct hit. Admiral Hayes stood firm at the command platform, gripping the rail with iron strength. "Report," he demanded. "Shields at 30%, shouted the tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. Multiple destroyers lost. The fleet is surrounded." Another blast shook the ship. The crew struggled to stay on their feet, yet none abandoned their posts. Hayes' voice cut through the chaos. "We will not break. We will not retreat. All ships hold formation. Prepare for counterattack." The enemy pressed closer, their crimson weapons blazing. Their massive warships dwarfed many of the human vessels. Yet still, the humans fought on, every ship answering with firepower of its own. In the observation platform, the alien envoys watched with wide eyes. The Veil, pale and trembling, whispered, "They should be dead already." "No one survives this long." The Zorath envoy clicked his mandibles in disbelief. "They are not like us. They fight as if they welcome death itself." Then came the turning point. The human dreadnought Resolute 2 fired its main cannon. The beam tore straight through an enemy cruiser, splitting it apart. Instead of retreating, the humans pressed forward, their formation cutting deep into the heart of the enemy fleet. On every channel, voices of determination rang out. "This is the cruiser Hammerfall. Enemy on our flank destroyed. This is the destroyer Defiant. Shields failing, but we are holding the line. This is the carrier Eagle's Wing. Fighters launched. They will not pass us." Admiral Hayes heard them all. Each voice reminded him why humanity was feared, why they had survived on a dangerous world, why they would not surrender now. "Target their command ships," he ordered. "Break their coordination." Human weapons unleashed a storm. Rail cannons cracked, plasma beams burned, and missile barrages ripped into enemy formations. For the first time, the black wave faltered. Their perfect order broke. Ships collided as they tried to regroup. The alien envoys stared in awe. The Veil's voice trembled. "This is impossible. Their numbers are endless." Hayes heard her and turned, his eyes like steel. "Numbers mean nothing if you fight without spirit." Then the Indomitable fired. Its colossal railgun roared, launching a tungsten slug with unstoppable force. The round pierced through 3 enemy ships in one shot, leaving them shattered and burning. The fleet erupted in cheers. Morale surged. Even in the darkest void, humanity had shown they could strike harder than anyone imagined, but the enemy was not finished. Their largest ships surged forward, crimson light flaring across their hulls. They poured fire on the Indomitable, determined to crush humanity's command. The deck shook violently. Consoles exploded. Smoke filled the bridge. A junior officer shouted, "We cannot withstand this. They are focusing everything on us." Admiral Hayes raised his voice, steady and unbroken. "Then we show them why Earth still stands. Prepare the Nova cannons." The crew froze. The Nova cannons were humanity's most dangerous weapons, rarely revealed, never used in open war. Their power was devastating, their cost immense. But in that moment, there was no choice. "Nova cannons online," reported the weapons officer. "Targets locked." "Fire," Hayes ordered. The Indomitable shuddered as its hidden weapons roared to life. Blinding beams of white-blue energy streaked into the void, ripping straight through the enemy's largest battleships. 1-2-3 ships erupted into fireballs, their hulks torn apart in seconds. The shockwave rippled across the enemy formation. The alien envoys gasped in unison. The Zorath clicked his mandibles with disbelief. They were holding back. All this time they were hiding such power. The Veil's eyes glowed brighter. No wonder they never begged for a seat on the council. They never needed us. The enemy faltered, their advance broken. Human ships pressed the advantage. Fighters swarmed through the gaps, destroying stragglers. Cruisers unleashed relentless volleys. The tide of battle shifted. Across the fleet, cheers filled the comms. "This is the Guardian. Enemy ship destroyed. We're pushing them back. This is the Sword. Nova cannons cleared our flank. This is the Ironclad. For Earth, we fight to the last." Admiral Hayes allowed himself the smallest of nods. "This is only the beginning. Do not let them regroup. Show them what humanity is made of." The battlefield burned with the light of victory. For the first time, the invincible enemy was forced to retreat, but then the sensors screamed. The tactical officer paled. "Admiral, new signatures detected. More ships. Thousands of them. This is only a fraction of their strength." The cheers died instantly. Across the fleet, every soldier felt the cold weight of reality. Humanity had won a battle, but the war had only just begun. The alien envoys looked to Hayes. The Veil whispered, "Can even humanity survive this?" Hayes stared at the endless stream of enemy reinforcements appearing on the display. His jaw tightened. "Then we will do what we always do. We endure." The enemy superfleet surged into the battlefield, dwarfing even humanity's might. The next clash would decide if Earth's gamble was their greatest triumph or their final mistake. The void of space darkened. Across every human sensor screen, new contacts appeared. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The enemy's superfleet emerged from the shadows of the stars, their massive silhouettes blotting out entire sectors of the void. It was as if the darkness itself had grown teeth. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew stared in silence. Even the hardened veterans who had survived wars on Earth felt the chill. Admiral Hayes gripped the rail with both hands. His voice carried no fear. "Status report." The tactical officer's face was pale. "Multiple super-dreadnoughts detected. Countless cruisers and destroyers. Admiral, their numbers outstrip us 10-1. Another officer added, her voice cracking. "They are locking weapons." The enemy formation shifted with inhuman precision. Crimson lights flared along their hulls, like 1,000 burning eyes turning toward humanity. The first volley struck. A storm of crimson fire rained upon the human fleet. Destroyers disintegrated under the opening barrage. Cruisers shuddered as shields buckled and hulls tore apart. The carrier Eagle's wing vanished in a blinding explosion, its fighters scattering like sparks. "Eagle's wing lost," reported a shaken voice. The bridge fell silent for a heartbeat. Then Hayes barked, "Return fire. All ships, focus on their lead formations. Do not break." Rail cannons roared in unison. Plasma beams sliced across the void. Missiles streaked forward in glowing arcs. The humans answered destruction with fire of their own, tearing holes in the first wave of enemy ships. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 3 more surged forward in the hangars. Soldiers clung to their weapons as impacts rocked the decks. Private Daniels, strapped into his seat, could hear the distant thunder of explosions through the metal walls. His voice shook. "We cannot win this." Sergeant Cole, standing tall in front of his squad, snapped back. "We fight until Earth itself stops breathing. That is the difference between us and them." The squad fell silent, their fear tempered by his words. Back in space, the human fleet tried to hold the line. Dreadnoughts unleashed Nova cannons, vaporizing enemy warships with each strike. Fighters swarmed like angry hornets, breaking through weak points in the enemy's massive formation. But the storm did not stop. The enemy super dreadnought Leviathan, larger than any human ship, advanced through the fire. Its weapons cut through the fleet like blades through paper. The human cruiser Defiant was torn in half, its crew vanishing into the cold void. On the Indomitable, alarms screamed. Direct hit on Deck 9. "Shields at 20%. The deck shook violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Admiral Hayes stood unmoved, his voice firm. "Target the Leviathan. Concentrate everything we have." The order spread through the fleet. All guns turned as one. Rail slugs, plasma beams, and missile barrages slammed into the giant warship. Its shields flickered. Its hull cracked. For a brief moment hope surged, but the Leviathan endured. Its crimson core flared brighter, then unleashed a single devastating beam. The human dreadnought Resolute 2, already scarred from battle, was caught in the blast. The ship glowed white, then shattered into nothing. The loss echoed across the fleet. Voices on the comms cried out in grief and fury. Resolute 2 destroyed. They killed her. They killed her crew. "Make them pay." Hayes' face hardened, but he gave no sign of despair. "We will make them pay, but not with rage, with precision, with control. Humanity will not fall to fear." The alien envoys in the observation deck could barely breathe as they watched. The veil covered her mouth, whispering, "This is too much. Even humans cannot survive this." The Zorath envoy's claws dug into the railing. "If they fall, so do we. Pray to whatever gods you have, Veil. Humanity is our last shield." Another wave of enemy fire slammed into the human fleet. The destroyer Iron Spear exploded. The carrier Vanguard lost power, drifting helplessly. Debris scattered across the void. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the lights flickered. The tactical officer shouted, "Shields collapsing, hull breaches spreading. We cannot take much more." For a moment the battle seemed lost. Then Hayes spoke, his voice low but unshakable. "We will not break. We will show them what it means to face Earth." He opened the fleet-wide channel. His voice reached every soldier, every pilot, every crew member. "This is Admiral Hayes. You fight for Earth, for your families, for the future of all mankind. Hold your ground. No retreat. No surrender. Humanity does not bow." Across the fleet, spirits ignited. Pilots dove back into the fight with renewed fury. Gunners redoubled their efforts. Even the most battered ships held their line, refusing to collapse. But the enemy pressed harder. Their superfleet surged forward, endless and merciless. One by one, human ships fell, their sacrifice buying only moments. Then the unthinkable happened. A crimson blast struck the Indomitable directly. The deck shook like an earthquake. Consoles exploded. Smoke and fire filled the bridge. Crew members were thrown to the floor. "Reactor hit," shouted the engineer. "Power failing. We are going dark." The lights died. The great human flagship, symbol of Earth's might, fell silent. The alien envoys gasped in horror. The Veil's voice cracked. "The heart of their fleet is broken," the Zorath hissed. "If the Indomitable falls, the humans are finished." Admiral Hayes stood among the smoke and sparks, his silhouette lit only by the red glow of emergency lights. His jaw was set. His eyes were hard. The flagship of Earth had gone dark, but Hayes had not. The flagship Indomitable drifted in silence. Its lights were gone. Its weapons were cold. Around it, the human fleet struggled under the storm of fire. Enemy ships pressed closer, their crimson weapons blazing with hunger to end humanity's last hope. Inside the darkened bridge, Admiral Hayes stood among smoke and sparks. His voice cut through the chaos. "Auxiliary power, now!" The engineer coughed through the haze. "Backup systems are offline." "The reactor is too damaged." The crew exchanged fearful looks. Without the Indomitable, the fleet would collapse. Hayes turned sharply to the communications officer. "Bring me the command vault." "Unlock it," the officer froze. "Sir, the vault contains untested systems." "They are classified." Hayes's eyes narrowed. "Do it!" Earth did not build that weapon to gather dust. "Open the vault." The deck trembled as another enemy barrage struck. Sparks burst across the ceiling. The crew scrambled, obeying his command. Beneath the bridge, hidden behind reinforced bulkheads, a chamber came to life. Heavy locks disengaged. A door hissed open, revealing a console pulsing with deep blue light. It was Project Aegis, a weapon whispered about in the darkest halls of Earth's military. A secret so closely guarded that most of the fleet had never heard of it. The tactical officer whispered in awe. "Sir, this system was designed for planetary defense. It was never meant to be fired from a ship." Hayes's jaw tightened. "Then we adapt. Humanity survives by doing the impossible." The crew rushed to their stations. Blue lights surged through the ship's veins as power rerouted into hidden circuits. Slowly, the Indomitable systems flickered back online. Screens glowed. Consoles lit up. The bridge breathed again. "Power restored to primary weapon arrays," reported the engineer. "Project Aegis is charging." The alien envoys in the observation deck leaned forward, stunned. The Veil's voice trembled. "What are they doing?" "That ship was dead," the Zorath envoy growled, his eyes glowing. "They are humans. They do not stay dead." Outside, the enemy Leviathan turned its colossal guns toward the recovering flagship. The alien commander believed the humans were finished, and it prepared to crush the last spark of resistance. Admiral Hayes gave the order. "Lock Aegis on the Leviathan. All ships, clear the line of fire." As the fleet reeled from the blow, Hayes prepared to give an order that would change the fate of the battle forever. The fleet moved with discipline, battered hulls, still obeying his voice. Fighters pulled away. Cruisers shifted formation. A path opened in the void, a clear line between the Indomitable and the Leviathan. The enemy sensed the shift. Hundreds of crimson beams slashed toward the flagship. Shields groaned. Armor melted. Still the humans held. "Target locked," said the tactical officer, sweat dripping from his brow. "Aegis is ready." Hayes raised his hand. "Fire!" The Indomitable unleashed a blinding torrent of energy. A single beam of pure white light shot forth, brighter than the stars themselves. The void seemed to tremble as it carved across space and struck the Leviathan. The alien super-dreadnought's shields flared. Its crimson glow struggled. The white beam pushed harder, drilling into its core. Metal cracked. Fire erupted across its hull. The Leviathan roared with silent fury, firing all weapons in defiance. Yet the beam held steady, powered by the heart of Earth's ingenuity and desperation. Then, the impossible happened. The Leviathan shattered. Its colossal frame broke apart in a series of violent explosions. Fragments of burning metal scattered through the void. Each piece drifting as a silent grave marker for the most powerful warship the enemy had ever built. For a heartbeat, both fleets froze. The human fleet stared in disbelief. The alien fleet staggered, shaken for the first time. The unkillable had been slain. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew erupted in cheers. Relief, fury, and hope burst all at once, but Hayes did not smile. His voice cut through the celebration. "Do not celebrate yet. They will not retreat so easily. They will answer this with everything they have." As if summoned by his words, new signals lit the scanners. The enemy fleet surged forward with even greater fury, thousands of ships screaming into the fight. The void burned crimson once more. The tactical officer's voice shook. "Admiral, the Aegis is overheating. The weapon cannot fire again without destroying us," the engineer added, panic rising. "Reactor core is unstable. If we push it further, the ship will not survive." Hayes stood firm, eyes locked on the storm approaching. "Then we make every shot count. Humanity has faced worse odds than this." "We do not break," the alien envoys whispered in shock. The veil clutched the railing. "They should retreat. They should run." The Zorath's voice was filled with grim respect. "No, they will stand until the void itself turns against them. That is who they are." Outside, the enemy unleashed another wall of fire. Human ships fell one after another. The Indomitable shook under the assault. Sparks and flames filled the bridge again. Private Daniels, strapped into his station, whispered under his breath, "We killed their giant, but they are still endless. What if this is the end?" Sergeant Cole, bruised and bloodied, leaned close. "Then let the galaxy remember. Humanity went down fighting like gods." Hayes looked out at the battlefield, his face set in stone. He knew the truth. The Aegis had bought them time, but not victory. A new choice loomed before him, one that could save the fleet or destroy it completely. Hayes prepared to unleash the final contingency hidden within the Indomitable. A decision that would decide not just the battle, but the future of all mankind. The wreckage of the Leviathan still drifted, burning like a shattered star. Yet its destruction had not ended the war. It had only enraged the enemy. Thousands of crimson warships pressed forward, flooding the void with fire. The human fleet fought back with everything it had, but the cost was unbearable. Ships that had stood for decades were torn apart in minutes. Crews who had sworn to defend Earth vanished into the cold dark. On the flagship Indomitable, smoke filled the bridge. Consoles flickered. Sparks rained from broken panels. The crew fought through the chaos, but their eyes kept flicking toward Admiral Hayes. They knew the battle was slipping away. The tactical officer shouted, "Shields gone! Hull integrity at 30%. We cannot survive another wave." Hayes stood tall, his hands gripping the command rail. His face was carved from steel. "Then we buy the time humanity needs. Prepare the contingency." The crew froze. Everyone knew what that meant. The communications officer whispered, "Sir, activating that system will destroy us. There will be no return." Hayes's voice was steady. "The fleet cannot hold without us. The enemy must believe we still stand. If the Indomitable falls, morale shatters. We will pay the price if it keeps Earth alive." Silence fell across the bridge. The crew exchanged grim looks, but no one disobeyed. Slowly, they turned to their stations, hands moving with renewed purpose. Beneath the flagship's armored decks, deep within hidden chambers, the second secret of Project Aegis came alive. It was not a weapon meant to kill. It was a shield meant to burn itself out. Project Bastion. Massive emitters unfolded along the hull, glowing blue. Power drained from the reactor at a terrifying rate. The ship groaned as energy surged through its frame. The alien envoys in the observation deck gasped. The veil whispered, "What is this?" "Their ship is tearing itself apart." The Zorath's claws dug into the railing. "No, they are building something greater. Look, outside, a sphere of blue light expanded around the Indomitable. It grew wider, engulfing nearby ships, human cruisers and destroyers. Their shields, long shattered, suddenly glowed with fresh protection. The bastions spread across the fleet like a giant umbrella. Enemy fire struck. For the first time in hours, it did not cut through. The bastion absorbed the storm, flaring with each impact, holding back destruction. Cheers erupted across the human fleet. For a moment, hope returned. On the bridge, however, the truth was clear. The bastion was not infinite. It was draining the flagship's life. The reactor screamed under the load, each second bringing the ship closer to death. The engineer shouted, sweat pouring down his face. "Core temperature critical. If we keep this up, the reactor will collapse." Hayes did not waver. "Hold it as long as you can. Every second we stand, Earth lives longer." Private Daniels, watching the blue glow through the viewport, whispered, "They are saving us at the cost of themselves." Sergeant Cole answered with a grim nod. "That is what leadership looks like." The battle raged on. Protected by the bastion, human ships surged forward. Fighters swarmed the enemy like avenging spirits. Rail cannons tore through alien hulls. Cruisers unleashed broadsides with new fury. The fleet fought not just with weapons, but with the courage born from sacrifice. But the enemy would not be stopped so easily. Their commanders saw the truth. They focused their fury on the Indomitable, hammering it with relentless fire. Each strike made the bastion shudder, each impact stealing more strength from the reactor. The tactical officer cried out, "Admiral, bastion collapsing!" "We cannot sustain this," the engineer added, voice shaking. "Reactor breach in 5 minutes. If we do not shut it down, the ship will detonate." Hayes stared at the display. His crew waited for his word, fear and resolve etched into their faces. Finally he spoke, calm as stone. "Then we make the choice ourselves. If the Indomitable must fall, it will not fall quietly." Gasps rippled through the crew. They knew what he meant. If the reactor could not be saved, it could be used. The Indomitable could become a weapon of its own. The alien envoys went pale. The Veil's voice broke. "He cannot be serious." "He would burn his own flagship." The Zoroth bowed his head, almost in reverence. "That is humanity. They will sacrifice their crown jewel if it saves the rest." Hayes turned to his officers. His voice was steady yet carried the weight of eternity. "Prepare the self-destruct sequence. Time it with a full bastion overload. If this ship dies, it will take half their fleet with it." The bridge fell silent. Every officer felt the chill of the order. Yet one by one, they nodded. The communications officer spoke softly. "Sequence ready!" "Awaiting your command," the engineer whispered. 3 minutes until core collapse. "We will not survive past that point." Hayes looked across his crew, his warriors, his family in the void. His voice was calm, resolute. "Then we make those minutes count." Alarms wailed. The ship trembled. The bastion flickered. The enemy pressed closer, sensing their prey was on the edge. With 3 minutes left before the Indomitable's core collapsed, Admiral Hayes prepared to give the order that could save humanity or doom it forever. The bridge of the Indomitable shook as fire rained against its failing shields. Blue light from the bastion flickered, fighting to stay alive. The reactor core roared in protest, glowing brighter with each passing second. Alarms wailed. Consoles sparked. Crew members struggled to hold their posts. The engineer's voice was grim. 2 minutes until reactor breach. If we do not act, the ship will explode on its own. Admiral Hayes stood tall in the chaos, his eyes locked on the burning battlefield outside. Then we decide how it ends. This ship will not be remembered as a ruin. It will be remembered as a weapon. The communications officer's hands shook as she confirmed. Self-destruct sequence primed. Awaiting your order. The crew fell silent. Each of them knew what this meant. There was no escape pod launch, no rescue shuttle. If the order was given, they would not leave. Yet no one wavered. Private Daniels felt his chest tighten, but he did not speak of fear. He simply whispered to himself, "For Earth." Sergeant Cole heard him and nodded. For Earth. Across the fleet, battered human ships struggled to hold the line. They knew the flagship was dying. They knew its sacrifice was the only chance they had left. Still, they fought harder, buying seconds, keeping the enemy close. The alien envoys watched in stunned silence. The Veil pressed her hands against the glass, tears in her eyes. "They are going to give everything." The Zoroth's voice was heavy, almost reverent. "Not everything. They are giving more than anyone thought possible." Hayes opened the fleet-wide channel. His voice rang clear across every human ship. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Indomitable. You have fought with courage that will be remembered for all time. Our enemy believes numbers will crush us, but they forget who we are. We are humanity. We do not break. We do not surrender. And when the void itself closes in, we light it with fire." His words lit a flame across the fleet. Damaged cruisers steadied. Fighters pushed deeper into enemy lines. Destroyers rammed alien vessels in suicidal strikes. Humanity fought with the fury of the doomed. The tactical officer looked to Hayes. 1 minute, sir. We must activate now. Hayes raised his hand, ready to give the final order. Then a voice broke through the comms. Admiral, this is the Vanguard. We can still fight. Give us your command. Do not do this alone. Hayes paused. He felt the weight of every life in his fleet pressing down. Then he spoke calm and absolute. This is not about dying alone. This is about making sure you live. Hold the line, live, carry the fire home. The engineer shouted, core overload at maximum. If we wait any longer, we lose control. Hayes gave the order. Now! The bastion flared brighter than ever before. Blue light surged outward in a growing sphere, expanding faster and faster. Enemy fire hammered against it, but the shield did not break. It absorbed everything, feeding the storm building within. Enemy ships realized too late what was happening. Some tried to retreat. Others pressed forward, desperate to finish the kill. The Indomitable's reactor screamed one last time, then the void lit with fury. The flagship exploded in a burst of white and blue fire, brighter than a star. The bastion collapsed outward, turning into a wave of destruction. The shockwave tore through the enemy fleet, ripping ships apart by the hundreds. Cruisers disintegrated. Battleships cracked in half. Even the massive command carriers vanished in the blast. The human fleet braced, shields straining under the wave, but the bastion's design spared them. The fire burned only outward. When the light faded, silence fell. Where thousands of alien ships had stood, there was only wreckage drifting in the dark. The enemy fleet was broken, its strength shattered, but the Indomitable was gone. The fleet listened to the empty comm channel where Hayes's voice had once been. No sound came, no signal, only silence. Private Daniels, aboard a surviving cruiser, stared at the space where the flagship had stood. His eyes filled with tears, but his voice was steady. He saved us. He saved everyone. Sergeant Cole placed a hand on his shoulder. Do not weep for him. Do not mourn. The Admiral gave us victory. Now we must honor it. Across the surviving human fleet, a single phrase spread, whispered first, then shouted, for the Indomitable. The alien envoys stood in awe. The Veil's voice was soft but full of conviction. They gave their lives so others would live. This is why they cannot be defeated. The Zorath envoy nodded, his eyes blazing. This is why humanity will rise beyond us all. The human fleet, bloodied but alive, turned toward Earth. They carried scars, but also triumph. They carried the fire that Admiral Hayes had lit. The galaxy would never forget what had been seen that day. A fleet outnumbered 10-1 had stood. A flagship had sacrificed itself to shatter the impossible. Humanity had proved once more that no force in the stars could bend their spirit. The Indomitable was gone, but its name was eternal. Final end. The story of humanity's defiance had only begun. The galaxy had seen their strength, and now it would never look at Earth the same again.